Ladies and gentlemen, I can only begin these proceedings by saying a few words. It's Spoilerin time. Brian Brushwood, we are going to spoil Cosmos. We're going to tell you how stars are made, like in Hollywood, right?
That's right. First of all, you got to get a good agent.
Yep.
And you're going to sign some exclusivity agreements.
Limber up your morals. And then we're going to talk about The Shield, episode 9, which I watched in my ongoing book club pursuit of The Shield.
Yep.
And then we'll finish up with Game of Thrones.
Right on. Well, let's dive it straight on in. Cosmos, spoiler alert.
Should we welcome in Philip Shane?
Oh, man, he's already here. He's already in my heart and mind. Sorry, Philip Shane. And this is great because you've seen all of these, so we can all be on the same page.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, I thought this was one of the best Cosmos of the entire series and loved it. Why? Why are you laughing?
Because I didn't think it was the worst, but I actually got kind of bored halfway through and found myself drifting.
No. Okay, no, this one was the story of the skies. You realize that the reason I watch Cosmos and the reason I started studying astronomy was when we had my daughter, I was like, she's going to grow up and be a curious girl, and I want to be able to point and tell her the story of the skies. I want to be able to point to Betelgeuse and say Betelgeuse is one of 3 stars in the entire sky that shows up as more than a point through a telescope. It's 50, it's estimated to go supernova possibly within our lifetime, or, this one over here. And they did that. I learned new stories to tell about the, Pleiades, the 7 sisters. And they also they did a brilliant job theming in that at first I was really kind of disappointed. I was like, wow, why are they telling this extraordinarily rapey story about women getting chased and wanting to, beg the rocks to protect them from bears, or, Orion overcome with lust, chasing them and in the sky or whatever. But then to flip that and show empowered women in science bucking the trend and adding to some of the most important discoveries in science, I loved all of that. And I loved the fact that the science, I mean, I can understand you drifting at times where the science is
I tell you what, the first half hour had me. And all of those things you say, I 100% agree with. I still think the dialogue in the animation leaves a lot to be desired, but I loved the story they were telling.
Agreed.
And so I was gripped, and I was like, wow, this is good stuff. I did not know a lot of this stuff, and I'm really enjoying this. This is good information. The Pleiades thing was interesting as well. It was the second half where I just kind of, I don't know. I was like, oh crap, I'm not paying attention. I'm not going to remember what's happening. And I think it was the more visual, because it wasn't the cartoon anymore. But there was something that just
the problem.
Maybe it's me, maybe I'm just my brain couldn't handle it. But
well, I mean, it was a laundry list of things. And again, you're pretty hip to science, so I'm sure a lot of it is familiar to you. You're like, oh, now he's going to say brown dwarf, and now he's going to explain black hole, or, and you if you
red
already
giant.
know.
Here comes red giant. Oh, well, you said red giant.
And I'll tell you what I loved was when he gets to the end and uses the exact script Carl Sagan said for that, for what became that auto-tune song. Still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy rise. Something of 400 million stars. I don't know. I was really looking. I just got stupid goosebumps. Screw you, Tom. I loved it. I thought it was good. What about you, Philip?
I agree with Tom. I also dipped a little bit in the middle, maybe somewhere, but then I was captured again and wrote it well to the end. I agree. Also, I think one thing in general, and you guys have talked a lot about this in the past, discussing the show, the cartoons are a difficult thing, and it's obviously a big challenge. How do you do reenactments? And they've done these cartoons. It struck me in this episode, or it just came to me, that there's the whole show is animated except for Neil Tyson occasionally walking around in a landscape somewhere. And the space animations are so cool. I mean, they're totally badass, beautiful, amazing. And the story animations aren't as cool. I mean, no matter what you call them, I don't know that you couldn't feel that they're as cool. But the story was really important.
Well, they really do. The dialogue always, it's written flat and it's always performed flat. It actually feels like a school assembly show where they march up to the center of the stage and say, I'm Anton von Leeuwenhoek, and I want to, that kind of stuff.
And you know what? I think you really nailed it, Philip. It's that contrast when you see the animations of space and physics next to those line drawn animations, you're like, oh, but that looks so good, and this looks so not good.
They're literally 2-dimensional versus the story stuff is 2-dimensional animation versus intensely 3-dimensional, amazing space stuff. One other thing, there was one real subtle thing that jumped out at me that I thought was pretty cool. That's a theme they do each week, which is he sat by the campfire and he told us campfire stories in these ancient myths. And then he stayed by the campfire and began to tell us the modern story. Yeah. And I thought that was a beautiful way of tying together the notion that here's the real thing. And these women are amazing, as amazing as a mythic figure.
What was it? Was he actually at Devil's Peak, whatever?
Devil's Tower, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And no mention of Close Encounters, but it was.
No, go ahead.
There was no mention of Close Encounters.
Yeah.
But it was right there. A shout out to Close Encounters. Yeah.
I wondered if they had shot. Part of my brain goes into thinking how they did this. I'm like, did they shoot the other campfire scenes there as well?
I think so. That's what it
just makes sure that they don't show Devil's Tower because they want to save that reveal. Because and when in the night of shooting was this part done? Because I don't remember. Maybe I just missed it. I don't remember seeing able to see Neil deGrasse Tyson's breath the way you could on this one. I was like, man, you cannot tell he's cold except for his breath is fogging out like icicles.
Yeah. Now, somebody in the chat, I don't know if they're making a joke, saying Marley Matlin's performance in the cartoons was cool. That's awesome if that was Marley Matlin.
It was.
There's one way to
Kirsten
find
Dunst
out
as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. I did not realize that. Well, I continue to like it, and again, that for me was I got good material to tell my daughter when we go out on the porch next time we pull out the telescope, and that to me was precious. So definitely colored my experience.
I want to ask you, Brian, are the kids looking to Neil Tyson now? Am I still here?
Yeah. Sorry, you had a little blip for a moment, but it sounded like
the kids looking to Neil Tyson in the way we looked to we
I'll ask Penny what she thinks. Penny's only seen a couple of them, and the problem is because I watch it on the kids go to bed before Cosmos comes on, and then I watch Hulu during the day to get caught up but for Cord Killers, so I don't get the opportunity to sit and watch it with the kids. And Penny will watch it, but Josie will get annoyed and walk off. So as a result, she's only seen one or two of them. And when we did, it was a big special moment, and it was very cool. I'll ask her what she's getting out of it.
Cool.
All right, let's carry on our Shield book club, as several people have started to call it in the chat room. I'm trying to find episode 9 to jog my memory of exactly what happens in this episode, but it's sort of I don't know. I want to say it's a water treading episode. I'm not sinking back. I'm not starting to hate it again or anything. But it does sort of just keep me going forward. Like, all right, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of interesting. I don't remember anything in particular drawing me forward the way these last couple of episodes were. This is Throwaway. Wait a minute, is that right?
Yeah.
This is the one where the planted gun in the truck jacking case causes complications, and so you have
this is sort of like an isolated adventure where it's like they do some sneaky stuff and then they need to cover their tracks, and it is very actually it says here the season 1 episode Throwaway was written specifically as a spotlight episode for Kenny Johnson.
That makes sense then, because you still get like, okay, this is Vic Mackey trying to be good and bad at the same time. So it's carrying forward what I've learned about him there.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting story. Like, how are they going to frame this up? How are they going to get away with it? How are they going to do it? But it didn't seem to impact the overall story arc. It just sort of was I said, like a placekeeping episode.
Well, and again, if their job was to let you get to know Lem better, then they gave you an opportunity to do that. And because that's the other thing is, as the characters, the more real the characters become, the more you care about the nested, entanglements causing trouble for each of them. And so in that regard, hopefully it, I don't know, got him on the radar for you.
Yeah, it didn't lose anything, and I'm certain it gave a little more depth to those characters, obviously, because I spent a little more time with them. But it wasn't the kind of thing that impacted me today.
Yeah, right on.
but it wasn't a bad episode either. I wasn't sitting there like, when am I going to get through this? Like, I was engaged because it was a good story to tell.
You want to move on to Game of Thrones?
I don't know. Do we need to talk about it?
I'm looking up for recap here to make sure that we don't miss anything. How did it begin right now?
I don't remember how it actually began.
Oh, that's right. It began.
I watched it twice.
You watched it twice?
Yeah. Well, because I was watching the last week what's oh God, now I'm turning into an old man. Who's the comedian from the Daily Show?
Jon Stewart?
No, the other one who left to go to the
Oliver
HBO.
Something. Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. That guy.
Yeah, so he had his show and I was watching it, and then after his show, the Game of Thrones came on again. So I just kept watching it.
Yeah, that's right. It was the slaves getting freed. And they sort of just jumped right in on it. They armed the slaves, they busted out. All of that was immensely satisfying.
John Oliver, thank you, chat room.
That great gut twist ending to that vignette where you see her take the slavers, just unwavering refusal to back down from crucifying every single slaver for one for every slave that they had killed. I thought that was really good.
Philip, what was the thing you took away from this episode that stuck with you the most?
Oh yes, come here, Philip. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. That was kind of amazing. I love the sort of quick takeover of the entire city at the beginning. That was kind of incredible. What do I take away? Honestly, is the most horrifying stuff that happens at the end. Is it Cratchit's? What's it called?
Craster's.
Yeah.
Craster's. I mean, it just gets more and more disturbing.
Now I know it's hard to. We've taken a lot of discussion about talking about books versus television show here, but this was one episode that finally made me go, now wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I had to go look up plot summaries, and I didn't realize how far we'd already drifted from what's happening in the book at this point. But there are a couple of big departures that I think are not spoilery to talk about simply because we don't know about them or they didn't happen in the book. One is Craster, where that sort of look into things I don't think happens at all.
Right.
And Jon Snow goes for a different reason out rather than to go to Craster's. The other is what we see at the end with what apparently was called the Night's King in the HBO Go version, but then they've removed that since.
Interesting. Well, first of all, that entire, I guess also there's another kind of interesting departure from the book because George R. R. Martin has said in this television show, in this episode, we get essentially a flat admission from what's her name, the old lady that she poisoned.
Lady Olenna.
Yeah, the Lady Olenna saying, I wasn't going to let you be with that monster. I killed him. Whereas it was not that direct.
She doesn't say I killed him.
Well,
she says, I wasn't going to let you be with that monster.
Right. Correct. Good point. But George R. R. Martin has gone on the record as saying, what happened in this episode is consistent if you read between the lines of the book. Like, he never made it blatantly obvious like that. But again, television's a different medium, and it's certainly in character for it. But that again also was a big departure from the book.
I was impressed that they made it so clear. Like, there seemed to be little subtlety into who was involved in the killing of Joffrey, especially after I remember listening to you, Brian, a week ago when you guys were talking about the killing, the poisoning with the cup. And you were talking all about, it's going to be this long debate, who done it, like an Agatha Christie type thing. Yeah. I was surprised that it came so quickly. The answer, things may change.
I think again, this is the difference. In a book, especially if it is a multi-layered onion with a long and epic narrative, and you don't mind not having answers for extreme amounts of time and setting up things that sound like disasters, and then you see them from the other side, books later. You could do that with books, and I think that the readers have been happy with that. I don't think you could get away with it without annoying a lot of people in the television side of things. I think that there are enough stories like with a TV show that has a reputation for possibly being just too dense because you got so many stories that are just running independent of each other. It's essentially an entire series made of this patchwork of little 7-minute vignettes over and over and over again, each one exquisitely produced, but very independent from each other. Like, I think that they were like, hey, can we trade this? Let's just flatly wrap that up. That's the end of that vignette. Now there's the more interesting other story of, what's going to happen to Tyrion and so on.
Yeah, in a book, you can afford to drip out hints over hundreds and hundreds of pages. In a television show, it's like, yeah, we kind of need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So people know what the table is like going into the next scene. I did wonder if it seemed rushed to anyone, because I don't think it did. It felt like it was sort of the natural revelation of, is it Tyrion? Oh, I don't think it's Tyrion. Oh, is it Sansa? No, maybe it's Baelish, but Baelish doesn't seem to have admitted that he was anything but kind of behind the scenes. So Baelish sort of did it, but sort of not. And then we get the like, oh, okay,
yeah,
it was Diana Rigg because she's from the Avengers British television show, and she used to wear a leather catsuit, which is what she was trying to tell her granddaughter, is you wear your leather catsuit and you seduce people and kill them.
Well, and also let's talk also about the fallout for the Queen. Forgot her name already, but not Cersei.
Cersei? Oh,
the actual, not the Queen Regent. The actual
or the Tyrell,
Marjorie Tyrell. Loved her in total Marjorie Tyrell fashion. Being like, well, this is what's happening next, and I'm not going to give up being the Queen. Going to work on sowing seeds of dissent with Tommen, and I love the fact that Tommen has been like a nothing character, and this is the spirit that is captured so well in the books, represented in the show. That's the way the books were. Like all of a sudden, like, hey, this guy's been here, and you haven't seen him, and you don't really care about him because none of the other characters care about him. But now we all have to care about him because guess who's your new king? I really enjoy seeing that, and I thought it was exquisitely shot. The whole it's such a cliche now that the amber and blue colors going together.
Yeah.
But with her holding the candle, and you see her profile in gold, and you see Tommen's profile in the blue of the night outside. It's just gorgeous. All that stuff is gorgeous.
Yeah. From a total nerd filmmaking standpoint, I was actually watching that, wondering if in the color correct they split the screen down the middle and made sure that she was red and he was blue.
I was wondering, functionally how they shot that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I will say this, and this is the first time this happened. Bonnie physically got up and left and did not watch the last 5-10 minutes of the show. She could not handle watching a baby left out to die of exposure, and she certainly couldn't handle watching a zombie pick it up and just not even knowing what thing was about to happen to the baby. She knew that she was not going to be pleased with it. And so...
Well, the baby was taken away to be taken care of.
Okay.
And become zombie baby. His
zombie
eyes
dad.
are gorgeous blue now.
He was an ugly kid before. It's an improvement.
There's no ugly babies, but let's be honest. Sometimes there's ugly babies.
Well,
now,
sometimes you can enhance a baby. Get a little eye coloring in there.
Just saying,
my wife and I
is
watched
what
the
Todd
show
DeGosa
together.
just called him.
What's that, Philip?
I was just like, my wife and I, we watched the show together. We love it. And in the middle, in several points throughout this last episode, I just thought, this is not really good date night.
Yeah.
Going back to the Marjorie Tyrell thing, though, like how brilliantly executed. You guys were talking about the look and the film of it, but how brilliantly executed was it in the dialogue where you start to wonder, like, how far is she going to take that with this little boy? And it's like, no, she knows she doesn't need to take it. She just needs to suggest the idea, and he is hers.
Yeah.
And good acting on his part, like, because he just looks like, I will do whatever you want.
My guess is if it's an actual 13-year-old kid and an actual gorgeous
it's not
actress,
acting.
My guess is that's not too hard to fake. Right on. We'll continue to kick all the asses, George R. R. Martin team, and congratulations on being still the best show on television.
Benioff, Weiss, you're killing it. What do you think that last White Walker with the spikes on his head is?
I don't know. This is again. Here's what I'm starting to realize. The story has some serious supernatural elements that are always in the background. This is the way it was in the books. This is the way it was in the show so far. But it is also a world that is getting increasingly more magical in general. You know, the wildfire worked bigger and better than ever, and there's dragons on the other side of the world or whatever. And I wonder how much of the character of the show is going to become more obviously fantastic as we get forward. Could we find ourselves near the end of the show seeing like Lord of the Rings level of wars and supernatural, and you know, because again, we just saw one giant for a few seconds and have it come back. Like, could we see something, or is that built into the DNA of the show that the supernatural stuff will always be few and far between?
There's an element of the history of Westeros regarding the White Walkers coming across the wall and invading in the past. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to tread too far into that territory, but I have a feeling, and this doesn't spoil anything because they haven't touched on it in the books or the television series, but I have a feeling like we are headed at the end of this story to an epic clash at the wall. Like, that is, you know, I wouldn't be too surprised if dragons and White Walkers and giants and Stannis and Melisandre with the Red God and Arya with whatever she learns from the Face Changer, all just show up for one titanic battle of the five armies.
Awesome dance party where they all play the Reigns of Castamere.
And rock out on Tywin's body. dead body.
So the there was something else I was going to say, and now I've lost it.
Hodor?
No. I love the fact, like, for example, the fact that that they showed the entire sacking of that city by the slaves. You never saw a dragon that entire time. There's no gratuitous, like, don't forget she's got dragons.
Yeah,
it's like,
which they didn't need to do, but they could have because they just wanted to be like, remember dragons.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly, because they realized that the dragons are incidental. They are not, nobody's tuning in and be like, I want to see them dragons. They're not the stars of the show.
That was an interesting thing that I found going back to read plot summaries is that Barristan Selmy and Jorah Mormont both fell out of favor with Daenerys and then had to get her favor back by being the ones who led the assault into the city through the sewers. And the fact that none of that actually happened didn't matter to me one little bit. It all still felt like the important points of taking Meereen were that they sneaked in, that the slaves revolted from inside, Daenerys walked in without pulling her sword, you know, metaphorically speaking, and the city was hers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's the biggest magic trick of all is that we don't even recognize the parts that just every single moment is like, oh yeah, I remember this, with occasional moments that are like last night's episode where I'm like, wow, this is definitely not in the books. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered this. But the fact that you don't think about what's missing, instead just recognizing how right everything that you see is good.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for watching. It's Spoilerin' time. Philip Shane again. Thank you for hanging out and spoiling with us. It was fun.
Oh no, dude.
Thank you.
We had the most perfectly awkward Skype hiccup just then. Sorry. We tossed to you and you were just frozen. Are you back?
I was frozen with gratitude.
Okay.
One last time, remind folks where they can find you online.
Philip Shane, that's Philip with one L, philipshane.com, or on Twitter at Philip A. Shane.
We'll see you later, everybody.
Right on.
Don't go change it.